All right, I'm here with Professor Miles McLeod, and he's here to talk about neocolonialism. So the first question is, how much do you understand about neocolonialism?
More than the average American, but not nearly enough. The idea first was introduced to me, I guess, when I was living in Ghana, West Africa in 2005. I had heard the term, I'm sure, before that. But that's when I kind of became interested in the topic and just kind of seeing the effects and talking with people who had to live, who currently live through it. I guess I'm maybe a little bit more self-aware, a little bit more knowledgeable than the average American, but not much.
All right, question number 2. Can you name any specific examples of neocolonialism that you have witnessed firsthand?
So the idea of neocolonialism can take on, I guess, many different, it means many different things to many different people, right? So you have this kind of systematic neocolonialism that you might see when a brand new country gains its independence, and right away, that country needs loans, right? It needs to improve its infrastructure. It needs to make itself an industrial nation. So it obviously has to get the loans from an industrialized nation or the World Bank. And a country like Ghana, for instance, because that's what I know most about, right after their independence, Kwame Nkrumah, their president, wanted to build a hydroelectric dam, and it was going to bring electricity to all of West Africa. But in order to finance this dam, he had to make a deal with the devil, Valco, which is an American-based aluminum company that said, hey, we'll finance the whole dam for you. All you have to do is give us a portion of the proceeds for the next 50 years. And so he was like, oh, what? That's awesome. I don't even have to pay back this loan. And he, and again, everyone plays a part in this, but he rushed into this deal. And because of that, the country just hasn't benefited from the electricity that it's been producing for the last 50 years. It has the largest man-made lake in the entire world. But right now, the country is experiencing an energy crisis because of the deal that it made with a American corporation nearly 50 years ago. Even today, Shell Oil is drilling off the coast of Ghana, and Ghana only gets 10% of that income and hasn't seen any of it yet. So you see it all over the systematic kind of corporate greed that takes countries' resources, but you also see it on a more micro level. I saw it in the attitudes of the Texas couple that I worked for. They owned a beach lodge, and they basically treated the Ghanaians like indentured servants. Sure, they paid them enough to keep coming back, but never enough to get out of poverty and to grow. And you saw it by the way they just treated their employees. You see it in the attitudes that Ghanaians have even towards themselves, right? This idea that America is better, that America has all the solutions, that everyone lives in these, that it is rich in America. And they look towards America with this kind of, savior mentality that Americans perpetuate when they go there as volunteers. So you see it at a macro level, micro level, a personal level, a cultural level.
All right, and then so to add on the last question, what are some of the side effects that the inferior country feels from neocolonialism?
So that's obviously a question better directed at them, but I guess either common sense or research shows that certainly there is an inferiority complex, a level of dependability that might arise from this type of neocolonialistic, paternalistic relationship. And that only makes sense. You have a country who comes in and says, hey, we're giving you everything. We're going to help you solve all your problems. And then the other country saying, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll look to you for the solutions. And there's a trickle-down effect that, starts from, a lot of culture in any country is defined by the people in power. And when the people in power are becoming dependable on other outside sources, that will trickle down and affect, I think, the whole culture. So I don't know. I mean, research says you see that a lot, but also at the same time, you go into a country like Ghana and the entrepreneurial spirit is live and well. It's not like there's this welfare mentality here, like they're sitting around waiting for us to solve them. The people that live there on a day-to-day basis are doing amazing things and maybe aren't necessarily knowingly affected culturally or, in terms of mentality with neocolonialism. Certainly their lives are affected, but not their mentality or perspective on their life.
Okay. What would realistically have to change in order to bring neocolonialism to an end? And what would be the most significant positive change that would come from the ending of neocolonialism?
So we'll do that one question at a time.
Okay.
So what would have to happen for neocolonialism
Realistically.
to end? Realistically, I don't see it ever ending. As long as capitalism takes place, right? Neocolonialism refers to an outside country basically using or enforcing its power, position of power on another country in order to gain some sort of benefit from that country. And so really what you have here is just a cross-cultural class conflict, right? So even if, so basically it'll never, as long as capitalism is alive and well in this world, and it always will be, capitalism in my opinion is the economic system that best aligns with human nature. So as long as humans are humans, we'll have capitalism, which means we'll always have the poor taking advantage of the weak to the powerful taking advantage of the weak to remain in power. So I honestly don't think that'll ever change. Now, it might look different. Eventually, maybe Africa becomes the powerful, and then they start taking advantage of Americans, right? I can't look too far in the future to predict what those changes will be, but there will always be a form of neocolonialism as long as countries exist. Mm-hmm. Now, the second question is, what is, I don't know if I can answer it right. What's the second one?
Most significant positive change that would come from ending neocolonialism.
All right, so it'll never change, but it can get better, right? There certainly can be the middle class, which is really the large majority of people in the world. That's me and that's you. And as long as we continue to speak out against the brutal injustices that neocolonialism bring, as long as we can be conscientious consumers, right? Because we are the consumers of this market economy. And as long as we can force the people in power to say, hey, we're not going to buy from you, we're not going to support your brand as long as you continue to do these awful things, we can at least keep it in check more than it is right now. But unfortunately, too many of the people in this country and in the consumer countries of this world just are ignorant to what's actually happening in the world, and we continue to support this neocolonialism. So it'll never end, but we can, I think, collectively make it less of an injustice.
Okay. And is there anything that the average Ghanaian can do to help make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw it when we went to Roots Yard. You have to, right? All change starts with education. And the country of Ghana needs to do a better job of educating its people, not just your basic literacy, which it's doing a better job on, but it needs to educate it, Ghanaians on how to make them the country in power, right? How to get more people in Ghana to be less reliant on outside sources. It needs to, I think it just starts with education. Once knowledge is power, and once the Ghanaians have that power, they can start dictating their future more than allowing outside companies and bureaucracies and governments to make choices for them. But that won't be possible until they're made aware of these injustices. So I think you see, like with what Roots Yard is doing, right? Trying to educate one person at a time. And them trying, right? They've kind of disconnected themselves from these injustices and are making conscientious decisions on how they live their life, not buying from American companies, supporting local business, supporting local agriculture, things like that, cut ties from some of the corporations that are practicing neocolonialism, I think are what Ghanaians could do best and easiest.
And then finally, the big question is, what can the average American do to help bring this to an end or minimize it?
So, like I said, I think learning how to be a conscientious consumer, knowing that everything you buy has a global production line. Usually it starts in developing countries where we get most of the resources from, right? The cell phone that you're filming me on right now probably started in the mines of the Congo. And it is not the Congolese that are getting the money from that cell phone, as we all know, or at least there's only maybe a few people in the Congo getting money from that. So we need to be more conscientious, not just the technology, but our clothing. And there's things out there, and you'll learn it in Global Leadership Seminar in our next unit. You'll see that there's publications and research out there that says that these companies are good. They are trying their best to have the least amount of negative impact on these countries, not to perpetuate neocolonialism. And these countries over here are these, not countries, I'm sorry, these corporations and businesses are bad, so don't support them. So number one, we have to be conscientious consumers. Our consumerism drives change for companies around the world. And number two, I think we have to care. We have to, there's a cool video called The Empathetic Civilization. Here's my last little research part. 1,000 years ago, all we cared about was our family, our clan, right? I'm Scottish. We just cared about the MacLeods. Then all of a sudden, nationhood started happening. And then we cared about just the Scottish people. And then from there, and we've pretty much been stuck there ever since, right? We care about Americans or we care about Wake Forest. But I think as humanity continues to progress, and as our sphere of empathy continues to grow, we need to take that next step and say, not only do I care that there's injustices here in Wake Forest in America, but I also care about my Congolese brother or my Indian sister who is being unfairly treated by a system that I am a part of as a consumer. And so I think, number one, conscientious consumerism, and number two, we have to start thinking of each other, not just as, other countries and other people, but as one group, one humanity. And once we can kind of change that mentality, I think real change could happen.
Thank you. The first question is, how much do you understand or know about neo-colonialism?
Okay, thank you. I think the first thing the word was formed by Kwame Nkrumah. Okay, he coined the term neo-colonialism, and what I understand is wherein we have former colonial masters still trying to like have a hold on their former colony. For example, you have like maybe like Great Britain, former colony Ghana, so they have some kind of hold on it. Like France, former colony like Ivory Coast and Mali, they have a hold on it through maybe they're making like decisions and through especially through monetary issues, capitalism, and globalization.
All right. And then so, can you name any specific examples of neo-colonialism that you have witnessed yourself?
Yeah, the only one that come to mind would be like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, wherein kind of like want countries to change their policy or make new policies, or else they cannot be able to have funding. So I see that as a part of neo-colonialism that plenty here in Africa or in Ghana are not unable to make their own policy, really going against whatever policy of their former colonial masters. So IMF is one because like I just heard on the news, like they were saying like the government shouldn't create no new job next year, because of their financial status, So I see that as a form of neo-colonialism too.
Yeah. All right. And then so, what are some of the side effects that the inferior country feels from neo-colonialism, or what are kind of the effects that Ghana has from neo-colonialism? How is it hurting Ghana?
Yeah, as I just said, it will hurt in job creation. All right.
Yeah.
Helping job creation. If increase in poverty, okay, and then of course, if there's increase in poverty, definitely gonna have unstable society. Yeah. So lack of job, increase in poverty, and also the society being unstable. Like every now and then there are strikes, then people are going demonstrations. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then so number 4 is, what would realistically have to change in order to bring neo-colonialism to an end in Ghana? And what do you think would be the biggest change that would come from ending neo-colonialism?
That one is a very big question. I don't know. I mean, just time maybe government just got to stand on their feet and say, look, this is what we need to do for our people. This is what is best for the country. it's up a government to make their in-house policy and maybe stand on it and go by it without having of any foreign imperialist or government come to say it to them. It's just about us really like standing on our own and standing on our word. It's this whole thing is good for the country. So I think just for the very thing is best for the country. Yeah. It's a very tough question, but I just think the leaders gotta be more tough in decision making.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so, do you think that this is realistic to hope that one day neocolonialism can end?
For the way things are going, it's hard because everybody's trying to go towards globalization. It's not going to end. I mean, because every policy that been put in place every time for these things to grow in the society. It's not going to end in this my lifetime. I don't have in the fourth because as I say right now, we're moving towards global economy. Everything now they speak is about global economy, global monetary fund, global this, global that. So I see it as something that I see here to stay.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so the last two ones are: is there anything that just like the average Ghanaian could help do to make a difference, or what about the average American citizen?
With that, right now, power in decision making is taken away from the people. The only decision people can make right now is through the ballot box. Like who's gonna be the next president. But every decision making right now, the ordinary people don't have no hand in any decision making. I wish there was something like where decisions can be done through referendum and things like that. But now, so the average man would just sit now and just see these things happening and really nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hold on 1 minute.
Okay.
Yes, hello? Yeah. I'm telling you, let me call you back. I'm on a video call. I'll call you after the video call. Yeah? Alright.
Alright.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
not on my face.
So the first question is, how much do you understand or know about neocolonialism?
Well, it's one of the subjects that I learned about in my undergraduate major. So it's a little fuzzy in terms of the academic component of it, but it's something that I kind of see on a day-to-day basis here in Ghana.
Okay, yeah. And then, so the next question is, can you name any specific examples of neocolonialism that you have witnessed firsthand?
Yeah, I work for an NGO in Ghana, and so I work alongside or see or kind of get a feel for other NGOs and the work that they're doing, as well as the private sector. And you see it mostly in the economy, I think. The Chinese are investing heavily in Africa. They're also, the biggest trading partners are U.S., Britain, China, South Africa. So you still see some of the colonial relationships with Britain. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is that getting at what you're saying?
Yeah.
What you're asking?
Yeah, that's for sure. Just something that you've seen. So number 3 is, what are some of the side effects? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger ways that you see it is in the kind of the extraction of labor, especially so there's the construction industry, for example, is really big in Ghana right now, especially in Accra, and you have these construction companies coming in, mostly from Europe and from China, and they pay the management very well. Management get these lucrative contracts to come and live in some of the nicer places in Ghana, transportation covered, all of it. And then it's the locals who are doing the groundwork. But the majority of the money is not staying here in Ghana. So the contracts, whether it's private industry that's doing the building, let's say it's a huge high-rise complex, or whether it's the government doing road construction, the money that's being paid on those contracts is not staying here in Ghana. It's going back to the Netherlands, or it's going back to Beijing. So that's basically what colonialism has long been about, is people from elsewhere coming in, using local labor, and or extracting the labor themselves in a form of slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, but then keeping the profits for themselves, right? So that's exactly what we're seeing over again. It just so happens that the construction industry is one of the more visible things that you can see at it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's actual construction going on, and it's not hidden like, let's say, the cocoa plantations or coffee plantations or some of the other things where it's not quite as obvious.
Yeah. Okay. And then so the third question I had is, what are some of the side effects that neo-colonialism has on the inferior country?
So when I first saw that question that you sent me, question the use of the word inferior. I'm curious why you used it.
Well, it's obviously, not a mutualistic relationship where both are benefiting. And so I feel like, one is getting taken advantage of, essentially. And so that's kind of why I chose that word.
Okay. I would go with something more like exploited.
Okay.
Inferior kind of indicates like a quality rather than a process. So maybe just consider that when you're writing your report or doing your project.
Okay.
But the question itself was, what are some of the side effects of it?
Yes, sir.
The side effects are that people aren't necessarily being trained in the country that's being exploited in anything. So the British, this is a perfect example. The Ghana education system is largely based upon the concept of repeat after me. If you were to listen in on any classroom in Ghana, it's basically just the teacher saying something and the students saying exactly what it is back, and then the same thing on the test. Just repeat after me. No critical thinking skills. This is basically a holdover from colonial British rule, where they needed a workforce that was just educated enough to go out and do their jobs, but not one that was going to question the way that things operated, or really have a deep understanding of how colonial rule or government or anything else worked. So what you end up with is this vestige of an education system that is developing people who aren't necessarily equipped to go out and become managers, to become entrepreneurs, etc. Not that the people aren't able to do that, it's the system in which they're operating. And then the same thing happens when companies are coming in, only hiring people for their manual labor or simple kind of middle management skills, and not really investing in them to become leaders. So it really ends up with not necessarily a brain drain where the smartest, most capable people are leaving the country. Yeah, that happens too. But just that there isn't even a class of those most educated people being cultivated by the system.
Yeah, that's actually...
And that stunts development. That's what really stunts development.
Yeah, that's actually the exact answer I was looking for. Thank you. That was right on the money of what I've been finding. Sure. And then so number 4 is, what would realistically have to change in order to bring neo-colonialism to an end? And what would be the most positive effect from this change?
What would realistically need to happen?
Yes.
Couple things. One is, I would say a massive education reform movement in places where it's happening. The only problem is if you don't have enough qualified teachers, how are you going to train the public? So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Second might even be just straight up revolution. Just kicking out the colonial or former colonial rulers, having a complete restructuring of society, no matter what that is, and I'm not going to advocate one way or another.
Yeah.
But really just kind of hitting the reset button on civil society and government and the economy all at once and saying, we're going to forge a new path.
Yeah. For sure. All right. So that kind of covers that. And then,
Other things that might need to happen are, when you look at the economic front, trade protection, trade barriers, things that are going to help kind of mitigate the influence of these colonial powers from coming in and, just extracting wealth. But there are bigger problems that are stopping that, like the international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank and their structural adjustment programs that are kind of really keeping Western powers' hands on the internal economic policies of these countries that are being exploited.
okay.
It's really structural from even the highest levels of the economy and government.
Yeah. And then, so do you feel like there is a realistic hope of neocolonialism ending within our lifetimes?
That's really tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I think that neocolonialism could end. I think it would be more easily facilitated if there were a complete collapse of society. There are a lot of people who think that with peak oil, population explosion, environmental degradation, public health crises, that all of these things are kind of adding up to a really big social collapse when taken together. And if that were the case, then I think that there would be an opportunity to hit that proverbial reset button I described.
Okay, yeah. And then, so just kind of last few questions is there anything that the average Ghanaian could do to help, or what about the average American as well?
So the average American or anybody else who belongs to one of the superpowers you can advocate. It's hard because writing or calling your member of Congress isn't necessarily going to kind of overturn the way that the World Bank operates, for example. You can educate yourself. You can try to change from within. There are definitely people who work their way into positions at companies and NGOs and other governmental forces to try to make change from within. So that's something that maybe not the average person can do, but you can work towards being above average.
Yeah.
And taking on those roles. In terms of the average Ghanaian or someone else who maybe is in a place that's still being colonized in different ways, I think it's a little bit harder. They don't have access to the information sources or the educational system that Americans or British might have. So it's a little harder to say. I think it all starts with self-awareness and just asking questions. Really, from ground zeros is just critical thinking skills about why are things the way that they are and how can they be different. And you never know where that discourse will lead you.
Yeah. All right, and so that kind of concludes all my questions. These are actually like great answers, probably the best ones I've gotten. Just like a few background questions. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Massachusetts, and I went to college there, and bounced around a couple different places, and now here I am in Ghana.
All right, and so you said that you did some kind of minor or studies or something with neocolonialism?
Oh yeah, my major in college was called Social Thought and Political Economy,
Okay.
which looks at the intersection of race, class, gender through kind of a critical thinking lens, and we ended up discussing a lot about colonialism, its effect on the present, and how current policies are still perpetuating some of the injustices that we thought we might have been over in the past. And also with African studies as a minor, plenty of talk about colonization there.
Yeah. So, and then just like one more thing is, what would you call your position at Challenging Heights? Just so I can use it.
I'm the strategic advisor, so advising the director and senior management on ways to take the organization strategically, new partnerships to forge, reviewing our programs for their effectiveness, and do they even make sense, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Helping to write our strategic plan.